Hello, Abnormal Investigations. I'm trying something new today. Hopefully you can hear me a little clearer. I'm not sure, but this is definitely a little bit something different, and we're going to try this and see how it does. Well, guys, it's going to be a little longer of a encounter. As you know, after the camping, I'm going to be cutting back on the video drops a day. The video drops a day dropped in views, so we're going to cut back on them and should cut back on a little bit of the content, and the encounters and the boots on the ground will also be cut back to probably one a week. But things pick up, we can always go back from where we was at. So here's the encounter I've got, guys. Hello, my name is Tim, and I live near Coffeyville, Kansas on the Verdigris River. A broad, slow-moving expanse of water. It snakes its way through the dense hackberries and the oak trees of the countryside. I have spent my life in the city, and the river represented a new start for me. It was an escape, a quiet place for me to mend after a messy dissolution of my marriage, and the sudden, suffocating silence of this empty apartment. You'll understand that statement later. I bought the old house, with its peeling paint and creaking floors, because of its location. The back porch sit a stone throw from the water, and I spent the first few weeks there simply existing, drinking coffee as the mist burned off the surface, reading as the afternoon sun dappled through the leaves, and listening to the rhythmic, soothing murmur of the flow of the river. The river was a comfort, a constant, and its presence filled a void that had been followed and hollowed out inside of me. Divorce, no matter who you are, is hard, and some people are on your side and others are not. It is something that I do not ever wish on anyone. The change was so gradual that I almost didn't notice it at first. It began with fish. I am a person that loves to fish, and I spent the first few months catching fat, lazy catfish and occasional sunfish to have dinner and to keep my mind busy. I released most of them, except enough for dinner. Sometimes I was just content just to feel the tug of the line. Then the fishing went bad. The bites became fewer and the catches were smaller. I didn't think much of it. I chalked it up to the season, a natural cycle. A strange, earthy smell also began to cling to the air. It was like a scent of rot that reminded me of the overturned soil and the things long dead, like a roadkill carcass. The first sign of the thing came in the form of a sound. It was a low, croaking sound that seemed to come from the water's depths. It's not the familiar chirping of frogs or the splash of the leaping fish. This was deeper, a sound that resonated in my chest. It was kind of like a low drum. I dismissed it as an animal, a bullfrog of unusual size perhaps, but the sound returned night after night, growing louder and more insistent. It also began to haunt my dreams, a sound that followed me from my waking life into a murky, terrifying sleep. I got to where I didn't want to sleep because of the nightmares, and then the fleeing and the feeling of being watched set in. I could hear it every night on the river. Sometimes it was closer and other times it was further away. Is this why they sold the house so cheap to me, I asked myself. Then I would tell myself to stop, and I would go to bed. Then the disappearances began, small animals at first. My neighbor's cat, a scruffy ginger Tom, that was found most of the time sunning itself on my porch railing. It vanished without a trace. Then came the local ducks and geese. One day a family of mallards was cheerful, and they were a cheerful fixture upon the river bank. And the next thing, they were gone. My neighbor called the police, and they attributed the missing animals to coyotes or other predators. My neighbor told me on an evening visit. I knew better. He had lived by the river long enough to recognize the predators of the area. And this was something different. He had lived on this river for many years, and I knew that he knew more than the police. The true horror began when the river started to claim things. Not just living things, but objects. One morning I found my favorite fishing lure, the one my grandfather had given me many years ago, tangled in a low-hanging branch of a willow, bent and distorted as if crushed by an imposingly strong hand. It looked like something tried to break it, and tried it, and tied it to the tree where I would sit and fish, like it was left for me to see. I saw other things, too. A child's lost soccer ball, its bright colors muted by the river's slime, bobbing and weaving against the current. I even found one of my rain boots, lost a month prior, wedged in the tangle of the roots. The boot was not just muddy, it was gashed and torn, the thick rubber shredded, like something had just attacked my boot. I began to lose sleep. The croaking grew louder, and I started to hear other sounds, a soft, wet sloshing that moved just below the surface of the water. And when I would sit on my porch at night to read my book, a rustling in the dense underbrush of the riverbank, like something was watching me through the weeds. And on one terrifying occasion, a sound like a great heavy sigh that came from right outside my window. I started wondering, is something coming out of the river into my house? I was scared, and I would go in and I would look out the window and stand at the glass, with my heart hammering in my chest, staring out into the moonless night, seeing only the glimmer of the river, its surface now completely still, dark, and damn scary. My logical mind tried to invent rational explanations. The sounds were just animals, I would tell myself. The disappearances were normal. The strange things that I saw were tricks of the light, the products of sleep-deprived and isolated mind. I told myself these things, but a creeping, insidious dread had begun to take root. I started locking my doors and windows at night. I haven't done that in forever. I hadn't done it actually, Mike, since living in the city. I went to town and I purchased a .357 Magnum pistol for protection, a heavy, cold piece of steel that gave me a small, temporary sense of security. The fear reached its peak during a severe storm one night. If you live on the Verdigris River, you know how fast it can change. The river swelled, its banks overflowing, and the water rose to just a few feet from my porch. So I just sat inside. I kept the pistol on a table beside my chair, listening to the thunder outside. The rain hammered against the glass, and the wind howled through the trees. But through all that noise, I heard it, the croaking. It was no longer a distant sound. It was a night of darkness, and I knew it was right outside my house, magnified by the storm, and it was filled with what seemed to be hate or anger. I heard the distant slosh of something moving through the standing water. It sounded just like something walking in the water, and then a new sound, the scraping of something hard against the wooden foundation of my home. I'm not going to lie. I started to pray. I was so scared that what was outside was going to try to come in and get me in the house. I grabbed the pistol and I gripped it tightly, praying that it would just go away. Now I know I shouldn't have done this, but I got up and I pressed my face against the window, trying to see through the darkness and the rain. The lightning flashed, and in that split second of light, I saw it. It was low to the ground, a hunched, bulky shape, The water swirled around its legs, and its skin was all mottled gray-green, the color of the river muck. Its head was long and flat, and in the next flash of lightning I saw two pale milky white eyes, like blind fish eyes, staring directly at me. I didn't scream, I couldn't move, I simply watched, frozen in fear I had never known. The eyes stared at me in their gaze. I saw not just hunger, but a terrible evil demon intelligence. A tear ran down my face from the pure fear. When the lightning flashed again, the thing was gone. I spent the rest of the night shivering. The pistol I had forgotten was in my hands. This thing was not scary. It was terrifying. And I knew that my home could not keep this out if it directly wanted to come in and get me. The next morning the river had receded, leaving behind a thick layer of mud and debris. I walked outside and I had a hard knot in my chest. Yeah, I was afraid. Embedded in the mud leading from the riverbank to my porch and the back again were tracks. They were not like anything I'd ever seen. They were not human, not animal. They were broad and webbed, with long, powerful-looking claws that had gouged deep, deliberate marks into the earth. The tracks were a horrifying testament of the creature's size. They were 18 inches long, and almost human-looking, with toes. 6 to be exact. I called and tried to tell the police about the tracks, about the eyes, and about the sounds. They listened politely, but their skepticism was cold, hard wall. They suggested he was under stress. And that's when I laughed, and I said, "So you're saying I'm under stress," as I overheard the conversation. That I should take a vacation? This was my vacation, is what I tried to tell him. But I knew then that I should not argue by the looks they were giving me. I tried to go back to my old routine, but the river had changed. It was no longer a source of peace, but of terror. I did not enjoy it like I did. I couldn't fish anymore, couldn't sit on the porch. Every sound, every ripple in the water scared me. I slept, frightfully, plagued by dreams of milky white eyes and wet, sloshing footsteps. The house, once was my refuge, had become my prison. I felt trapped. I knew that I was out there, and whatever was out there could come into my house, and my doors and windows was not going to stop it. This is a feeling that I would wish on no one. The worst encounter came on Tuesday, a day of bright sun and clear skies. I was standing on the porch, staring at the water, when I saw it. Not the thing itself, but a child's red bicycle bobbing and weaving in the center of the river, its shiny paint dulled by the river grime. It spun in lazy circles in the murky water. Then with a slow, deliberate motion, it sank below the surface as if a hand had reached up from the bottom and drug it down. Now, a lot of you may not know this, but there is no way it was in the bottom, or it was on the bottom of the river. The Verdigris River is a very deep river, especially in the middle. At that point, I had seen enough. The city, with all its noise and chaos, was a preferable hell. I would choose that over the demon I seen. I packed a single bag, leaving behind my life, my furniture, and my dreams of quiet, peaceful retirement. As I drove away, I didn't look back at the old house, but as I crossed the bridge, I looked at it, a single glance into the river. The water was dark and still, reflecting the brilliant sun. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. But I knew the river held a creature that I no longer wanted to see, or ever see again. I never went back. I moved into the tiny, cramped apartment, the kind with the thin walls and constant noise. I've told no one what I've seen. You're the first, Mike. But I have found myself needing to get this out and off my chest. I may sell the home or rent it. I know that I can't never live there again. It makes me think sometimes, what about all the drownings that happens in this river? Are people actually drowning because some are said to be excellent swimmers? Or is something down in the murky water grabbing them and pulling them to the depths of their death? That is what haunts me now. Thank you for sharing my story. You know, the Verdigris River has a lot of encounters, and I've known people that's lost their life in the lake. My mom knows people. And one guy, for instance, went missing in the river and was found almost 8 miles away beside a boat ramp that doesn't even have a current. They thought that was weird. Does that river hold secrets? I think it does. The lake down here where I live that flooded the city, it's nothing more than the Verdigris River flooded out of its banks to make the lake. Why do they flood these little towns? Why do they flood these lakes? Is it really floodplain? Because, I mean, we didn't have it for years. Or is it to cover something up? Let me know, guys, what you think in the comments. I'm interested to see. Thank you, as always, for listening. Until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. And if you don't mind, hit the like button on the way out and share this out on a social media to help us grow. We'd appreciate that a lot. We'll see you on the next one. God bless and be safe.
Afraid of the dark?